Hey guys, Hookshop here. So Rek'Sai has been out for over a week now, so I wanted to share my thoughts on her as a champion and the problems she has both thematically and from a balanced point of view. The first we saw of Rek'Sai was during her cinematic titled The Terror Beneath. It featured a band of stragglers traversing a desert while being hunted by the Void Burrower herself. She's portrayed as a stealthy, inescapable hunter that stalks and obliterates her hapless prey. Sadly, the image conveyed of her from the cinematic and the one we find in actuality in her in-game performance don't quite line up. First off, Rek'Sai is anything but inescapable. She has no real CC outside from her unburrowing, which already requires you to be standing on top of the target. In addition to that, her burrowed E, the gap closer that creates the tunnels, is slow, clunky, and unreliable as it can be interrupted mid-travel. This does seem kinda odd considering she is supposed to be underground. I mean, the ability itself is even called Tunnel. Her next problem is with her unburrowed E, the Ferocious Bite. It is incredibly unreliable in most situations and only really useful for extended fights and duels, which the enemy player should be smart enough to avoid, compounded by the fact that all you need to do to avoid a Rek'Sai is to just walk away from her. Her bite only does decent damage at high amounts of fury, which is hard to achieve in a gank when you're running on a timer. On top of this, it's impossible to store fury before initiating a gank because it's consumed when you travel. Her tunnel network and ultimate are probably the most unique and thematic elements of Rek'Sai's kit. In theory, it really sells that unseen burrowing predator image that the cinematic first offered. In actuality, they too leave a lot to be desired. The latter relies exclusively on the former, meaning the worse your tunnel positions are, then the worse your ultis will be. Unfortunately, it's almost impossible to maintain a decent tunnel network as they're so easy to spot and to remove. It takes 2 seconds to stomp them and they're easily visible on both the screen and the minimap. If they're not in your jungle, don't expect them to last more than a minute. If you're behind in the game, then even your own jungle isn't going to house them. It's also impossible to be sneaky and hide the tunnels in a bush, as A, no bush is big enough for both an entrance and an exit, and B, there's still a trail that leads between them. Like I said, when your tunnel networks suck, then your ultis will too. This means that it's perfectly possible you'll not get a valuable ult off all game and just be using it to TP back to your jungle, which seems like a total waste. Unless you're relying on your enemies to leave up pre-existing tunnels on top of where they're fighting, which they won't, then sad to say, best case scenario is to ult to a relatively nearby tunnel, run to the fight and try to get there before it's too late to have a meaningful impact. Honestly, even if it were possible to TP straight into a fight, the ulti animation is so obvious and drawn out that enemies can easily just walk away. Imagine how bad TF ults would be if he were melee and didn't have that gold card. I'm not saying that her ultimates will always be completely useless, but as far as following this theme of the unseen predator goes, it definitely doesn't match. It's also kind of silly that, judging by the cooldown of the ulti, it's regarded as a global, as it has the same CD at rank 1 as Pantheon's. It is nowhere near comparable to that ability. But hey, at least it gives passive attack speed. I also want to give a shout out to the Q ability in burrow form. Like, what is that even meant to be? It does pitiful damage, it's thinner than an American college student's wallet, and it doesn't even slow. So far, its greatest use has been with cheesy AP builds. There are some really cool features with Rek'Sai that do make her feel like that unseen donger. The fact that you can jump back through your tunnels and the ability to track footsteps in burrow form come to mind. But sadly, in my opinion, she's lacking too much from what we saw in her teaser cinematic. In my opinion, she works better now as a top laner than as a jungler. So that about does it for all of my thoughts on Rek'Sai for now. That's all I want to say. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, this was originally a Facebook status, so go and follow me on Facebook. But apart from that, guys, I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in my next video.